Hey everybody, good evening. What's up, Damascus? How you doing? Welcome, welcome. I'm good, I'm good. Hope everybody had a good weekend. How was your weekend? They go quick. They go quick. We'll do a little session tonight. See if this news let's less maybe we get a little gap up. Who knows? Who knows? Hard to tell what the opening auction brings. So in let's see, 4 minutes, we're gonna get a market open. So the market makers and the larger traders who trade the pre-open, they'll be putting in their expressions of interest in, and they will do that indicated opening price. Hey, Kevin, how are you doing? Bowshot, good evening, good evening. Yeah, it's about almost 11 o'clock here in the UK, and I thought I'd do a little video and kind of go through a few things and see if it can be useful. I've got a a balance zone here from 53.91 to 53.99 and three quarter. And why I'm using that is it's just the last sort of balance of the night on Friday. So just use that as a reference and see if that works. Now, if we gap up above it, if we gap up and open at 54.25, for example, then what generally like to do is I like the market open and create a balance zone. That takes time, which is okay. You just get to sit and watch. Remember, these are newer times, interesting times, times where you have a lot of change. So it's always good to let the market open and show you the way. Has anybody gotten any emails from their brokers? Just wondering if it's regular margin or I'll use different time frames. Crypto savvy, I use the 1 minute time frame for day trading. I have balance zones using daily time frames, weekly time frames. So depending on what you want, we've got a balance zone. The nice thing is that the business never changes. It's always the same business. We're just pushing inventory around. So the chart is just a sales chart. It tells you if how the inventory sales are going on a daily time frame, and a minute chart is just showing you a minute by minute. So it's always the same business, right? They accumulate inventory and they sell it for a profit, right? So the chart is just a sales chart. People really don't realize that. Sir, what do you think to trade the Russell instead of EH with this price action? You know what? I honestly haven't looked at the Russell in about 2 years. You can use the same setups. There was a time, well, there's our open. So are we opening here 44? So there's quite a gap up. Okay. So we have a gap up, and now the market's going to go find the bid. Right? My data is a little ugly there. So where did we open? So when a market opens like this, don't try and trade it. Let the large traders come in. Let them figure out where the buying is and where this. Look how big the spread is. Look how big the spread is. You don't want to trade that, right? There's no reason to try and trade that. Just let the market figure out what's going on, right? It's all over the place. Take a look at the order book, folks. Now I've got ones and twos on every side. 7 is the largest contract order in the order book. I see a 13 way up, but it's a very thin order book. The spread is really big. This is not recommended trading for a retail trader, okay? I would just let this thing open. I'd let it trade for at least, well, if it was me, I'm going to let you guys trade this all night, and then I'll wake up in 5-6 hours and then take a look at it. So obviously that news about phones and electronics not being subject to the tariffs, right? It'll be interesting to see how Apple opens in the pre-market. I'm sure they'll gap up. Let's see if we fill the gap. Now Friday's high is down here at 54.18. Let's see if we come down and fill that gap. Let's see where the shorts are stuck. Because where the bottom is tonight is going to be where the short bid is. As retail traders, you have to adapt to the market, Michael, but there are some markets that are not for you to trade as retail traders. Like stuff like this, right? So whether you were trading the Russell or the NASDAQ or the ES, if you're just jumping in and trading this stuff with this kind of price swing, you're just asking to lose money. I haven't looked at the Russell lately. I would say if you're a newer trader, stick to one market. I trade the ES, and if it's too volatile, I'll trade it in Globex after it settles down. Or some days I just won't trade. If the market's too volatile and it's too fast and it's too thin, you have to, trading is a business, right? A lot of people think of trading as gambling, and they're just sitting in front of a slot machine. I've been in the business for 33 years, so are you making good business decisions? You know what I mean? What I want to see on the look below and fail, the look above and fail, on the look below and fail, I want the sellers to be complete. Have you guys ever worked in a brokerage firm and you worked a sell order for a client? You'd call them and say your sell is complete, right? You're done, you're filled, right? Same with a buy order. You're filled on your buy order. So you want to see those buy orders fill and complete, and then the seller have to lower price on a look above and fail, and the seller have to increase price on a look below and fail. There is a confirmation, definitely. We have a process. We have a very, very clear process. And your risk is managed as such. Yeah, if you come into the room, Herb, we have videos on it. I teach courses on it. I do webinars on it. That's basically, and most people don't really know this, but if you're trading, all your trades are either a look below and fail or a look above and fail. There's only two trades. You're either going long or short, right? If you're going long, you're you know you've made the business decision that you need to acquire supply to sell it at a higher price, right? Because you see that the selling has slowed down or stopped, right? So you're going to be a supplier. If you're going short, you see that there's too much supply, and the suppliers are going to lower price by price competing, and you will short. It has nothing to do with patterns. It has to do with business. It is a business practice based on the oldest two business principles that have existed for thousands of years. When supply dries up, price goes up. When supply is introduced, price goes down. You feel me, Michael? Now, you guys have patterns and indicators and all that, and that's great. Nothing wrong with that. But wouldn't it be nice to know why your trade works? Or wouldn't it be nice to know the business reason why you're taking the trade? Not just based on some pattern that some dude put on a book? Just saying. Everything I do is practical. Because I've been in the business, right? And my job was to sell you guys billions of shares of stock for my clients. So the trades that we do are based on common sense business principles, not a pattern. Does that make sense? Your brain works in a retail mode, which means you've been programmed to buy stuff. I've been I've been taught you to sell you things, right? That's why people line up to buy a phone because they've been brainwashed by the company that they need to buy that phone. You know what I mean? So you've been taught to be a consumer. That's why you look for patterns, right? I've been taught to be a seller. A lot of people have trouble with what I'm saying because everything in our society teaches us to be a buyer, right? We are brainwashed to be buyers, right? That's why people stand in line to go to nightclubs. That's why people stand in line for things. They have been sold, right? Think like the seller, not like the customer, right? It's not a specific problem. Trading is not a problem, it's a business. Exactly. Consumers have no patience and they want it now, right? Because they've been told, "Hey, you got to buy this. You're not cool if you don't own this." Right? So, how I find balance zones, right, is what I'm doing is I'm looking for a high and a low and see these two lows kind of line up in these two highs. Now let's see if maybe we look below that and come back up, right? Right? Now I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a consumer. I mean, bless the consumer, right? See, look at how that you see there's some buying here at 52 54.32. You guys see that? Right? There's some size. So there we go. Now we got a balance. 54.30 half to 44 half. Now we're going to see if, right? See, they stopped selling here. Now, will they initiate up here when we get up here? So let's see, right? I teach you how to trade based on the fact that I used to sell you a lot of stuff, right? Stock, right? Markets are a distribution mechanism for product. So either you're trading, if you're selling ES contracts, that's what we're doing here, or NQ or Russell or whatever you want, right? You come, we'll sell it to you, right? And then when you get sick of holding it, we'll buy it back at a cheaper price, just like a used car lot. That's why I always say it's the world's largest used car lot, right? We'll sell it to you up here, right? Then we'll buy it back from you down here, and then we'll resell it to you up here again, right? That's all we're doing. Just moving that inventory back and forth, back and forth. And see, it's kind of slowing down now. So this is what you do when a market opens. You just kind of chill out, look to see if these areas will hold, right? Seller appeared at the middle of the range. Makes sense, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you be a seller before somebody else takes your client? See, look. Boom, 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 boom. Check it out. Beautiful. Nice spot, DJ Trader. How you doing? See, look. Right? They're selling at the same spot. Because if you're long 30, why wouldn't you sell at 38? You'd be insane not to sell at 38. Right? Yeah, but you forgot something, Herb. You're not the only seller. You've got to price compete, and there's tons of other people selling with you, my friend, watching for 44.5. That's why everybody goes, well, why don't they just sell higher? Right? Well, because you're not the only one, brother. I'm selling, and Seymour's selling, and DJ Traders. Exactly. Right? Look at that. 44.5. Working nice. Working nice. Look at that. The sellers are stepping in. The offer is moving lower. Simple. Right? Simple. You're a selfish seller, which means you're going to be a broke seller because I'm going to undercut your prices and grab all your customers. You're going to be sitting there holding a bunch of inventory going, ugh. Right? What's up, Aubrey? How you doing? How's your weekend? Right? The last thing you want to do is be a seller with a bunch of inventory that you can't move. Right? There's no reason. Right? And don't act like every trade is your last trade. Right? You guys are always like, oh my God, I got to take this trade. It's got to make me 40 points because after this trade, I'm going to die. Right? It's like you always act like it's my last trade. You're going to do thousands and thousands of trades, right? If you're going to be doing this business for a while, right? Now, some people come into this business and they're like, okay, I'll do this for a couple of months and yeah, it seems kind of hard. Yeah, this sucks, I'm gone. But if you're going to do this as a business for years and years and years, you know, when you're learning, when you're building your business, why not make some money? You know, instead of trying to hoard all like I'm long and I'm never going to sell it. Okay. Well, you shouldn't be in a market then, you should be a collector. You're not a trader, you're a collector, right? It's like Jay Leno, he buys cars he's never going to sell. Look at that. Now let's see if 54.30.5 works. Now once you get a nice rotation, right? And the price action is decent, then you can just trade that rotation, right? So what you want to do is you want to wait for the market to do the look below. Whoa, sorry about that. Right? You want the market to do the look below and fail, or the look above and fail, and you could trade it back to the middle or back to the the bottom of the range, right? The first step to do is if you come into the room, Herb, I have a 5-step process. Every day we do the same thing. We look to see where the inventory is. We go draw our balance zones on the 1 minute. We watch them to see if they work so we don't just blow money and throw it out the door. Then we use the micro, which is a smaller instrument, to take test trades to see if we're on the ball and whether our ranges are working. If they are, great, trade the mini, go make your money. If they don't work, adjust, right? You know, like how if you have a business, right? You, you'll do the same thing every day, right? Like if you had a convenience store, you'd open the store, you'd turn on the lights, you have a routine, right? To go and conduct business, right? Yes, no, maybe. Nobody's ever worked in a store. You know, nobody worked at 7-Eleven when they were a kid. You know, you just got to use some practical stuff to think about trading because trading is a business. And if you don't think trading is a business, well, you should maybe go look at the Wall Street Journal. Go walk down Wall Street sometime. I mean, in the old days. Well, now I guess it'd be Connecticut and those places. All right, here we come. Under 54.30, right? Now, if the market sells off under 54.30, oh, there's a look below and fail. You just double the zones, right? So say this is a look below and fail. And these are 1 minute candles, right? So if it continues to offer under 54.30 and a half, right? If I was long 54.30, I would be selling into the 40s. And if I was short, I would be buying it back here. What you're doing is you're trading a rotation. The rotation involves the rotation of inventory, right? So you guys would have to, what you want to do is visualize that you're sitting there and you're trading thousands of contracts, okay? Because that's what's going on here, right? So now if you're short under 54.30, there's the middle of the zone. The first target is going to be 54.16, right? As we come down, look for some bids in this gap, right? This is where the short sellers, they're going to be lurking. They're going to be like dogs, you know, waiting for meat to fall off a counter, right? So the short bid is going to be here. Now let's see if they bid and push back up or they let it drop back under Friday's low. Here we go. There. Fill the old gap, right? It's always good to know the order flow. Now, 54.02 and a half is the ultimate destination. Now, sometimes we'll look below the middle of the zone, the lower zone, right? So this is the cost basis of the open. This is 2 times discount, right? So this is the discount zone. Let's see how long the sales last for. Well, a lot of people think that trading's gambling. I don't know. I was raised in the business. I've been in the business for 33 years. So, um, you know, if I told if a client gave me an order to sell 5 million shares of a stock and I said, well, you know, trading is gambling, that would be the last trade I ever did. You'd be ridiculed and thrown out of the business. So, hey, we caught some buyers. Let's see. There's a lot of verbiage that's tossed around in retail circles that, you know, not to be rude, but if you actually went and said them on a trade desk or if you said them to your clients, That'd be the last conversation you'd ever be having with them because they'd think you're an idiot. Uh, you know, it's just yeah, yeah. We're gonna do a Reg D 504. Well, it's a gamble. Yeah, clients don't want to hear that when they're putting up tons of money, right? It's like, can you sell this for me? Well, I don't know. Let's see what the waves say, right? The last day, Aubrey, if you spoke like that at a client meeting, the only job you would ever get is sweeping the street. You'd never get another job on the street. Maybe cleaning the toilets in a brokerage firm, right? Oh yeah, it's a gamble. Don't give me this order. It's a gamble. Would I short 30? Hey, Dubs, what's up, brother? No, I'm just sitting here looking to see how business is going tonight, right? I now the other thing is, let's see the reaction at 30 and a half, right? Maybe if it does a look above and fail, or if you see a clear seller at 30 and a half, right? Yeah, I don't know about those blue lines, brother. I'm just looking at my screen, and I see a seller at 30 and a half. So yeah, that was a good call, right? The level was responsive. You could sell 28, 29, use 30 and a half as a stop, right? Good call, right? So you're shorting here, you're using that as a stop. And let's see if you can cover some under 24. And then just put your bids down here at the bottom of those candles. And if you don't get a fill, then you know there's no supply. Well, the blue area is the cost basis. The green area is 2 times profit. And this is 2 times discount. And this is your cost basis, right? Good call on that 30 short, right? Now let's see if it can go down. Maybe put, you know, now this is, you're starting, this is the first sort of half hour of trade, so if you're short 5 contracts, cover 2 at every level. Yeah, I don't know. I have a fundamental um, sort of thought that, if you go into a business, you should know what the business is about. Um, I don't know, that just seems like common sense. Um, I'm going to open a restaurant. Do you know how to cook? No. Maybe not the best idea. Um, I can't even make toast, right? But I'm going to open a restaurant. Oh, okay. What are you going to do if your cook calls in sick? Well, go out there and ask if any of the customers know how to cook. Like, that's really not a business plan, right? We've, unfortunately, in this day and age, we've abandoned common sense, right? There you go, right? JJ, we don't think that deep, man. It's just I want, I want, I want, and thank God for that because if not for that, I wouldn't be able to sell you guys hundreds of millions of shares of stock, right? When I started doing this, some of my clients are like, "Why are you doing this?" I go, "I want to teach regular people how to trade." They're like, "Why?" They're like, "What are you, an idiot?" I'm like, "No, it's I mean, this." They just couldn't understand it, right? But my whole goal and what we try and do at Microefutures is we try and teach regular people how to make a living and earn some extra income, right? And if you want to take it further, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I want to be on a prop desk. I want to do all those things. Well, we'll teach you how to do all that stuff, but most people just, they have lives and families and kids and hockey practice and baseball practice to take the kids to. They don't want to sit at a desk 20 hours a day and watch the market. You know, they want to sit down, see if there's an opportunity, make a little cash, and if they can't make a little cash, they don't want to blow up their accounts, right? Easy way to tell you that there's a seller, my friends, is you just look at a level and then you see if the market can't get over a level. The reason they can't get over the level is there's a seller parked at that level, and he's taken all the buyers, right? And they're price competing, right? So now they're price competing in the middle of that zone here. So if you're short and you see that there is a seller, you can stay short, right? So you can stay short. Now what you want to do is put a bid under 16 and see if you can get a fill, right? Let's see if you can get a 16 fill. If you can't get a 16 fill, there you go. You're going to get filled. Beautiful. Now next level here is down here. What is wrong with this software? Continuously changes the size of the font. Brutal. Right there. You guys don't know this, but right now there are three people sitting somewhere going, how do we sell 300 million shares of stock over a 2-year period? Yeah. When the buyers compete, you'll see the sellers raise price. So you just watch this red line here. That's the offer. Watch the red line. The green line is the bid. The red line is the offer. Now, this market is choppy as hell, and it's not that smooth. But when you see that red line moving up, it means the sellers have seen buyers and they're raising price. When you see the red line moving down and offering lower and lower, it means sellers are competing. Don't worry about the bid. We'll take care of the buying. You guys worry about the seller. Okay? Just worry about the seller because they set the price according to the order flow, which is the customers that are coming into the store. Right? And for you trend line traders, when you see a trend line like that, all it means is the sellers are competing over a period of time. Competition, 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 right? That's when you can be in a short for you guys who are, shorting trend lines, right? I wouldn't use it for initiation, but I would use it to stay in the trade, right? Now, when the market starts breaking over that trend line, then you know you've lost your seller, right? Now, if you guys are looking at the gap as the close, that's 95 and 3/4, right? For me, we are inside Friday's range. So we'll see what happens, right? I'll be on here for a little bit more and see if how well the zones work. That's all we're doing. We're just, when the market opens, don't feel like you have to rush in. It's not like a stampede, right? It's not like, it's not like the 100-meter dash where you've got to be first, right? It's not Talladega Nights. There is no Ricky Bobby here, right? You want to make smart, intelligent business decisions where your risk is managed. Sometimes you got to give the market a little bit of time to show you where to take the trade, right? That's why they tell you to be patient. I don't tell people to be patient because as soon as you tell people to be patient, they completely ignore you. So I tell people, be smart. Maybe that'll make you think, hey, am I being smart? Is this a smart decision? Or am I just chasing this like a dog chasing its tail, right? Have a business plan. I'm going long because I see that the selling has stopped, right? A competitive zone is definitely. So for example, say the market did this, right? Say the market looked below 54.02 and failed, and I bought 54.05, put my stop at 2.5, and then I'd go and put my first seller underneath that white line. And if that seller order doesn't get executed, then I'd start getting out of the trade because I know that somebody's jumping in front of me and selling. I always front run, right? Poor low, right? So that shows that buyers are competing. Look at that, right? Very, very quick and easy market profile reference. When you see a poor low, buyers are competing, the sellers are going to lift the offer away, make them chase, right? Make the kids chase the ice cream truck, right? Spend some time watching, right? If you can actually spend some time watching without having that, oh, I got to trade, I got to trade. Now, a lot of you guys are gun to your head traders, right? Like my friend Uncle Dubby, right? Don't be a gun to your head trader, right? Don't act like someone's holding a gun and you got to take a trade. Just relax. Take it easy, right? The market just opened. It's only been open a half hour. You got 23 hours to trade. Yeah. See how support turns into resistance? The LBF setup has to do with, Michael, what happens is close your eyes and picture there's 5,000 contracts for sale, right? So here there's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Those contracts are now sold. The market will look below 54.02, maybe the last 50 or 100 get sold. Then when those sell orders are done, the market will come back up looking for product. Very simple. Yeah, I can't speak to TradingView. I've never used them. I mean, I have some crypto quotes on TradingView, but I've never used them to trade ES. A lot of people do. I don't. Maybe it's your internet connection or something tonight. Right? So right here, what's going on right here? What's the business? What's the business right here is that sellers are competing under this 54.23 and 3/4 level, whatever that is, right? Sorry. And these markets are insanely accurate because of the electronic execution, right? It's not human beings executing anymore. It's machines. Those algorithms are really, really well written. See ya, Uncle Dubs. Have a good one, brother. Stay out of trouble. Hope things are going well. So when we came down here, check it out. That's when they stopped selling, right? I'm using Sierra chart, yeah. So the sellers were competing there and there and there. Now, here's a cool little trick, right? And this will help you guys. You draw a line where the sellers sold before. So if you're going long, you can anticipate that they're going to sell there again. Now everyone's going to go, why, JJ? Why do they sell there again? Because they have size and they sold there before. You would sell there again too. And if you didn't, you're fired. right? So the top of the candles are where the sellers initiate, right? The top of the candle is where the sellers initiate and start to price compete, right? So when the market goes low and then comes back up, you can anticipate that they're going to sell here again because they did before. That's why price came lower. See, now look at 54.16 and a half. Now let's see if the market can offer above that. If not, the sellers are going to compete lower. And we're going to come back down to this 54, what's our low? 12, right down here. 11. Why don't you have the market profile levels? Because they're just useless right now. You're getting nothing from this, right? Other than that, this is the most important thing in the market profile right now. There's a poor low. Everything else is just noise, right? So for execution, I want the 1 minute candle. I love market profile, but it's a great place to know where the buyers are trapped, where the sellers are trapped, where the inventory is. You can't use market profile for execution. It's very difficult, especially when the ranges got really big, right? I have them marked down here, but what use? Okay, great. The POC is at 53.91 and a half from Friday. Does that do you any good right now, considering we're trading 54.18? It's useless. We know that the cost basis is down there from Friday, and they're getting rid of it up here, right? But I'm talking, what is the information that you need right now to trade? It's something to hope for, exactly, Aubrey, right? What is the information you need to know to trade right now? Do you need to know that the POC is down there? That's not going to help you. What's going to help you? If you're going long, what's going to help you is knowing that there's a seller at 22. So you can, if you're long 16, get out at 21, right? Here we see the sellers have stepped down, right? Look at there, right there. So when the sellers start to compete, you need to bail out of your trade if you're long, right? And market profile doesn't tell you that, right? Like right now, it's not helping at all. Let's see if we take out that poor low, right? There's nothing wrong with market profile. It's a great thing, but you can't use it for execution. That's why a lot of market profile traders, just on pure market profile alone, have a very, very hard time, especially when you have a 200-point range in a day, because sometimes your stops are 50 points lower. I like to keep the information, like the market profile tells me that we are underneath our inventory right now, right? All the inventory for the last 3 or 4 days of trading is all under 54.17. That's why we're slowing down when we come there, right? All of the inventory is here, right? Underneath. So that's why we're going to take this cheap crap and we're going to sell it up here for a profit. And when we come back down to these levels, we'll slow down the selling, right? And we'll use the shorts trapped from Friday to hold the market up. I don't look at whether price is accepting in the previous value area. It does not give me any edge, right? I can tell way more from the 1 minute chart. The thing is, Tim, how much information are you going to hold in your head while you're trading? I don't I've got to like unburden myself from too much information. Right? All I care about is where the sellers are, right? So they were selling at 20. They let it go over 20 because they saw buyers. The next seller is going to be there. Look. See, look. Wouldn't you rather know where the sellers are going to be than where the value area, blah, 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 right? So if you were long 18, you knew to bail here, right? I have no idea what you're talking about, Alex. Sorry. Don't understand the question. I don't know what those concepts are. No clue. All I all I do is look for the buyers and the sellers. It's a market, right? I mean, guys, people used to trade with a golf pencil and a piece of paper. If I took all this crap away from you, would you be able to trade with a golf pencil and a piece of paper? No screens, just a ticker. Most probably not. So I use the business to tell me, oh, there's a seller there. Look, the seller's right there. Hello. You guys see that? Does it not make sense? Seller's right there. Boom. Simple, right? Yes? No? I don't know. Sometimes people don't like it too simple, right? Some people like to be sold all this fancy stuff, right? They don't ever make any money, but, you know, they like to be sold really overcomplicated fancy things. Now, let's see if they pre-sell the 30s or front run the 30s, right? Look, seller was there, right? They stepped in again. Hope that makes sense, right? Just use common sense, ladies and gentlemen. Just use common sense. Don't try and make it sound too complicated, right? You're going to screw up your execution. Let me ask you this. If you got into a street fight, are you going to be thinking about Pythagorean theorem? A squared plus B squared equals... No, you're going to be trying not to get hit in the face, right? You know? It's okay if you're writing a white paper, you can look at all these things, right? But if you're actually trying to make some money, right? Why don't you use some practical, simple things to make money and manage your risk? How come all the sellers just don't sell? Have you ever sold anything? See, this is the thing. What I'm trying to do is anybody who develops VR, reach out to me. Because retail traders have no idea how to visualize what's going on in a market. Sellers always want to try, because you want to scare the buyer away, Matas. Buyers are like little deer, right? Wandering in the field, right? They're just prancing in the field, right? You don't want to go, and scare them away. If you started to sell, everybody else starts to sell, and you're going to lower the price. You're going to drive the price down. Doesn't that make sense? Think like a seller. Don't think like a buyer, right? Be very, very quiet. We're hunting rabbits. Remember? Bugs Bunny taught us this when we were children, right? Right? You don't want to scare the sellers away, right? Because wouldn't you rather sell at 54.24 than 14 if you had 500 contracts for sale? Wouldn't you rather sell them at the highest price that you possibly could for the longest amount of time that you possibly could? Just saying, right? Why not think like a buyer? Go ahead. Be my guest. You think like a buyer, I'll think like a seller, and good luck with that. You know what? You guys, the algos just make the market more um, efficient, right? It's like a delivery mechanism for supply. Maybe you folks should just Google what a market is. I don't mean to sound rude, but you know, what do you mean you never bought it? They have inventory from Friday. uh, unless it's month end. Exactly, right, Aubrey? At a car dealership, and the salesman's got to make his quota. Anyway, no reason for me to argue with you folks, right? All I'm trying to do is make your life easier. If you want to overcomplicate it, go right ahead, be my guest, right? We in the room, we like to make money and we don't like to be argumentative. So you can argue as much as you want about algos and all of that stuff. We'll just be quietly churning out a living, right? You know, that's all we want to do, right? I don't want to argue with people about whether I should think like a buyer or a seller. I just want to make my money and go home, right? It's work, right? It's work, right? There is a wholesale element in these markets, and most people don't even know that, right? That's why nobody makes money trading because they don't understand what the hell they're doing, right? They have absolutely no idea what kind of business that they're putting their money into. We try and help you figure that out in a simple way. Find simple ways to make money, find simple ways to manage your risk so you can get on with your life, right? And, it's all up to you. Now the business is starting to slow down a little bit. Any other questions? Yeah, Travis, the only time to buy a car is, remember in Canada, right? At any of the Jimmy Pattison lots, the salesman with the lowest sales every month gets fired, right? So if you go to a Jimmy Pattison lot, try and find the guy who's got the lowest sales to buy your car from. There, we got a big sell order come in. That's good. Now let's see if these lows down here at 11 hold, right? Because so far that poor low is holding, right? How do you find them? Look for the nervous guy outside smoking cigarettes. He's probably the salesman who's going to get fired. There's no edge in using the DOM. If I was working a 5 million share sell order, um, I would not show you that I am. Yeah, Mattis, maybe come into the room for a couple of days and check it out, and we'll teach you what the wholesale element of the market is, who actually holds the contracts. So for I use these two highs, and I use that low and that low. Now that one's not that precise, and then it went right back to that high. So it confirmed the rotation. So that's how I did that, Savvy. Right. You've got shorts from Friday, right? Right. You might as well use those shorts, Aubrey, and they're gonna they're gonna hold this thing. They're gonna if I know that you're short underneath 54.10, as soon as I get down there, I'm gonna stop selling. And because we all think the same, that's why the market acts the same. right? You guys have different ways of trading. There's only one way to do it on the other side, right? So if you see bids, you walk away from the bids and the bids will follow, right? And that's why you want to think like a seller, right? So eventually, right, you're going to load up so many people here with product that they're going to puke it, and then that's maybe when you'll get that 45, that 5400 that you're looking for. Think a lot bigger, Alex. Think a lot bigger. Take that 10 and multiply it by 100. All right. I'll start winding it down. Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting week. It's going to be an interesting week. Let's see what other policy changes come around. They seem to be changing their mind on a day-by-day basis and walking stuff back, or so it's definitely a challenging environment. So folks, come visit us at Microefutures. We have a 7-day free trial, and all the questions you're asking on YouTube, come and ask them in the room, and that way I can spend some time and go through it with you. Yeah, there's going to be buyers down there, Travis, because there are shorts trapped. Where the low of the night is where the short bid is. Hey, JB, how you doing? Good to see you. All right, I'm off to bed. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me and watching the open as these crazy markets continue to roll and roll. Have a good night, everyone. And remember, don't take candy from strange market makers. Have a great night, everyone. Bye for now.